What's up, big son?
Well, he's wanting to bite.
Yeah, he is. He's fired up.
It's hard to believe this time last year, I carried him out of the woods in my pocket.
Really?
Yeah, I gave him to the kids. I figured he'd die. He was too little.
Yeah.
Well, then I had to go back to work. When I come back, he was up that big, following him around like a dog. Now look at him, he's turned into a boar hog now. Getting mean. Them little old teeth like that's the worst on a dog.
Oh, yeah, that's
They're like knives. These won't keep a hog's tooth from going through them, but they save a rip. And a rip's where you usually get your dogs killed. But it's when they bury that knife up, get an organ, dump their guts.
Yep.
It's hard to pull them back from that. That thing has took a lot of lives. There's been a lot of pork poked with it.
And that's what we may be one of our...
That will be the tool, yeah.
Yeah.
They say in like the early 1800s, late 1700s, Arkansas was the largest deciduous forest in the world.
That's crazy, man.
That's why, like, it's East Fork Wilderness. I'm sure Bill Clinton made it a wilderness so nobody'd ever find the bodies he buried in that son of a bitch.
Bubba, did you ever think of me as Middle Eastern when I was growing up, when we were in school together?
I never even wondered, like, where Sarjahani come from. I got never crossed my mind.
Yeah, man.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You were always cool. You're always funny as hell. I always just considered you, now, you're a Russellville boy.
And I think that that's how most everybody thought of me. When I was growing up in Russellville, everybody treated my family really well. Like we had good friends, a good family. But I remember like certain instances where like people from my mom's church would come over with good intentions, and they were good men and good people trying to lead my dad to Christianity, you know? When you're a kid, you can't articulate all that.
No.
You have no idea. You just feel the emotions, and like I felt embarrassed, you know?
Right.
Like, what's wrong with my dad?
Like, why are these people coming to my house and not somebody else's on Sunday evening?
Like, why are we a special case, you know?
Right.
I think as I got older, I did everything I could to distance myself from my dad's side. You know, I played football and I did all those things and got into duck hunting and deer hunting, squirrel hunting with those guys, and just, you know, drove the 4-wheel drive. And I did everything that I needed to do to be one of the guys.
Hell, you remember me in high school? I was I mean,
I always thought you had good character, but you had...
I had a lot of issues.
Piss and vinegar.
Yeah. And was ignorant. And I didn't understand how to express my emotions. It was easier to go straight to mad. You know what I mean? It took me well up into my early 20s to get over that.
Did you go to counseling, or did you go to like anger management or anything, or
I got my ass whooped a lot. How much different is the landscape in Iran than here? There's hogs in Iran, right?
Yes, sir.
Hogs thrive in all environments. You know?
Oh, yeah, they're burly as hell, man.
And that's, not every animal can do that.
Absolutely.
What were you hoping to gain from going over there the initial trip?
At the time, I don't think I could articulate it. You know,
Right.
I think that there was a deep hunger for me to just connect with my dad's side of the family.
Right.
It's such a rich history and a rich culture, and I just kind of blocked myself off from it.
Right. What was the most shocking thing that, like culture shock, the biggest thing that, like...
So when I went there and hung out with Ibrahim, and he kills this hog, and he just starts harvesting it, and bust out a bottle of Johnny Walker Black Label whiskey and start smoking cigs. And then they end up like processing their hog and cooking it, you know, on the grill, you know, like no big deal. And I was just thinking like this would happen with
At home.
Bubba.
Yeah. I guess this would be a good place to turn loose as any.
Ready, critters?
Here. Find that hog. What'd they do over in Iran?
One of them had like big ass palm branches that he would use.
Yeah.
The other one would use rocks. And then we would kind of split up, and they would contact my cousin, and they say, this one's coming.
Bust him.
Bust him.
Some deer hunter didn't find him. Coyotes did.
Oh, yeah.
Look here, that's where a boar hog been cutting. He been rubbing here.
Oh, yeah. This right here, too, huh?
Yeah, them bars, them hogs come in here and they'll cut this and rub their heads on it, get that scent on them. They're getting this, see that pine sap?
Yeah.
They're rubbing that behind their ears and stuff, killing bugs out. But they'll cut that with their teeth.
Oh, yeah, I can
Kind of
see.
like a buck rub.
There's more of their hairs in here, too.
Yeah. Look how wide that track is. I mean, that's a big hog. You can see that's where his body laid. See how the mud's. What was your biggest fear? Like getting on the plane, going over there?
When Trump said he was going to bomb 52 cultural sites in Iran, you know, my entire family there lives within a 5-mile radius of 6 cultural sites. They lived the fear of like wondering, is this actually...
Is this some bitch really gonna do it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know?
I never had any clue that there was anyone in Iran that wasn't America, burn that down, let's bomb these son of a bitches and cut all the Christians' heads off.
Mm-hmm.
Before the conversation we had, that's what the world pumps out to people here.
Yeah, man.
And people are ignorant.
Yeah.
They're like dogs. They'll eat whatever you throw in front of them.
Yeah.
But you put me in a position where, look, Andy's always been a great
Mm-hmm.
and those are his people.
Mm-hmm.
Now I have some kind of connection to that.
Uh-huh.
And that'll make you change the way you think about it.
Yeah.
Because before it was like out of sight, out of mind, you know.
Yeah.
They're in Iran, if they blow that to hell, I'll never see it.
Yep.
So I'm like, whatever, but when I hear about this, if I run into you and you're in a, you know, really bad place because your family just got bombed,
Mm-hmm.
well, then that's something that I've got to live with.
Mm-hmm.
They found one.
Good God.
Come on,
Found
Step.
one.
Watch it. What's the biggest misconception that you've heard people say about not only Arkansans, but Southerners or...
That people here are just dumb. That we're just dumb. The second one I would say is probably something to the effect of like, oh my God, I've never been through there. Like, that sounds scary, you know?
Yeah.
That's the same as saying in Iran, everybody's burning the American flag, you know?
Celebratory?
Yes, sir.
We ain't got no cigars. You don't see doctors getting off work to go load their dogs. You know what I mean?
I agree, yeah.
If you see, you know, these guys are guys that work with their hands and, you know, what do they call that? Blue collar, middle class, lower class. And that may be, the way we done that may be too brutal for some people. I understand. But if you give a shit about quality of life for an animal, and I'm not knocking hog farmers, but that son of a bitch right there is a hell of a lot more healthy to eat than a son of a bitch raised in a Cargill hog house. Hate begets hate. You come at me hateful, and hateful is what you're gonna get back. If I never had that conversation with you, I could have just lived the rest of my life thinking that everyone in Iran was American Christian hating.
What's the table?
People need to set their pride aside and listen.
Yep.
And a lot of people are scared to be swayed another way. You got to reevaluate your whole life because you've been believing this one certain way your whole life, and now you're like, oh man, I'm wrong.
Dad, stop.
It makes me feel better about me knowing better.
Yeah. It's liberating when you're okay being wrong.
Yeah. Hang on tight. Give me your foot. Who wants to live their whole life being wrong, man?
You know, I think that, like, in some ways, Bubba, there was this part of me as a kid that, like, was afraid of this certain entity that I was, that I needed to be accepted by. Does that make sense? And in some ways, like, you represent that entity, the white American side of me that embodied what I wanted to be. But I did that at the cost of, like, denying, like, who I am.
Yeah.
You know?
You've dealt with that pull from either side. There's been times that I was battling internally. The things that I just took as being depressed or irate, you know, with myself. I never thought and broke it down like me and you talked. But then talking with you about that kind of stuff, I'm like, oh, I've been there. I know how you feel.
In a lot of ways, it's like processing an animal, man.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, getting the good out of it. Cutting out the bad. When I was younger, I'd sit in a real quiet room. I'd hear screaming in my head, just screaming. And I always thought, man, you f***ed up. It made me feel good that I wasn't the only that struggles. Sometimes you think the stuff that you think internally is like a secret even from yourself. A little fat inside of it.
beautiful.
That's the piece you just fry the whole son of a bitch up for breakfast. I don't know why, but it's like if I smash my thumb and it hurts real bad, and I see another smash his thumb and it hurts him real bad, it doesn't hurt mine as bad. It is a lot. Like, look, man, you're not the only you're dealing with. Suck it up and deal with it.
But you can also, like, it also helps, I think outside yourself. Like, if you see somebody else hit their hand on a hammer, you're gonna be like, damn, that hurt for that dude, you know?
Yeah.
Like, I think that's like...
Have a little bit of, what's it called? Empathy? Is that what you'd say?
That'd be, yes, sir.
A little bit of empathy?
Yes, sir.
I don't get to have conversations with people like this much. It's nice to be able to have a conversation with somebody from an opposing view of things and them not be like, you bigoted, racist piece of. And I think that's where me and you are pretty strong on things.
These conversations can take place.
Yeah.
You know, like they can take place.
Why is there not more people doing this?
The red stuff is saffron. It's actually the most expensive thing in the world by weight.
No.
Yeah.
I don't know that I've ever had anything with saffron in it.
Ghormeh sabzi is the national dish of Iran, and it's typically served with lamb, but today we're eating it with your wild boar.
Hell
Straight
yeah.
here from the Ozark. So we got the Arkansas, Iran, the Ozark, Iran fusion going on.
Over in Iran, they make sausage, they just cook it. Chunk meat.
They use lamb and goat.
Do they?
Yeah. So they typically won't. This is, I mean, that's why one of the things I like about this is that because they don't, most of the population is Muslim, so they don't eat pork.
Oh, yeah. Well, Andy, your Iranian dish speaks for itself.
Me and you both, man. That's what's up.
That's some good
Thanks
stuff.
for sharing that with me, man.
I'm about to get some more of that.
Get you some more, bud. It is good, isn't it, man?
I like that.
Get you some, man. It's
That's the first Middle Eastern food I believe I've ever ate.
really.
I would say 100%.
Yeah.
That's the first Middle Eastern food I've ever ate.
That makes sense, man. That makes sense.
You think about it, Andy. When we were young, you had a temper when you was younger.
Mm-hmm.
I had a horrible temper,
Mm-hmm.
and I used to let that sit, and I'd get madder and madder and madder about it. And then I usually, when I blew up on it, I blew up on somebody that didn't deserve it. And you know, I wasn't even that mad at them, but they just happened to be there the day that I couldn't cork it anymore. And that's what's going to happen to this country. Death by 1,000 cuts. And when we finally do explode, we're probably going to explode on the wrong. But I think that the conversation should come first. We should have those hard conversations. These conversations that any of us can have, you know?
That's a hell of a journey, big son.
It's got to start somewhere, bud.